How's everybody this morning? Y'all ready for class? Very nice to have everyone with us, and including those of you who are listening in online. We know that it's not an easy thing to make it to a Srimad Bhagavatam class, especially if you're preparing to work, getting kids ready to go to school, getting your lazy bodies out of bed, stuff like that. This morning, by the way, I'm Rupanuga Das. I'm a disciple of His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami, grand disciple of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. And this morning we're going to be continuing our reading in the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Spotless Purana. And we'll be covering texts 12 through 35. So we're going to read a goodly portion of the mansion that has been created by Kardama Muni for his beautiful and very highly qualified wife, Devahuti. First, we'll begin with an invocation to the Supreme Lord by singing. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Nitai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol Manjari Gopika Devi, you are here. I've been hearing your voice occasionally during the other classes when I'm listening online. Well, that's nice. Nice that you're here. I miss seeing your husband, however. But Raseshwari is going to have to make up for his absence. Bhakta Jose, the relentless. Very nice to see you still here. And our guest from Boston, Starry, very nice to have you here. I've been seeing you occasionally and wondering who you were. So chapter 23 of Canto 3 of the Srimad Bhagavatam, this chapter is entitled Devahuti's Lamentation. And once we hear the description of the flying palace that her husband has created by his mystic power and his meditation. We're going to wonder, what has she got to lament about? But as with any marriage, it starts out on a very happy, positive note, and sometimes it doesn't remain that way. So we're going to see what's happening in the life of Devahuti and Kardamamuni that has caused her to have reason to lament, even though he has created with his mystic power this floating palace that can go anywhere within the universe. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Yasam Tato Jayam Udirayat Nasta Preswa Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Yottama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Antara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Section number 12. Jose, can you read, please? Who's doing the clicking? All right.
Maitreya continued. O Vidura, seeking to please his beloved wife, the sage Kardama exercised his yogic power and instantly produced an aerial mansion that could travel at his will. It was a wonderful structure, bedecked by all sorts of jewels, adorned with pillars of precious stones, and capable of yielding whatever one desired. It was equipped with every form of furniture and wealth, which tended to increase in the course of time.
Pretty nice arrangement. All right, Temple President, let's hear you read. Text number what? 14?
14 through 15.
14, 15.
The castle was fully equipped with all necessary paraphernalia, and it was pleasing in all seasons. It was decorated all around with flags, festoons, and artistic work of variegated colors. It was further embellished with wreaths of charming flowers that attracted sweetly humming bees, and with tapestries of linen, silk, and various other fabrics.
Manjari Gopika. Text number 16, please.
The palace looked charming with beds, couches, fans, and seats, all separately arranged in 7 stories.
Read the next text, so please.
Its beauty was enhanced by artistic engravings here and there on the walls. The floor was of emerald with coral daisies.
One more verse.
The palace was very beautiful, with its coral thresholds at the entrances and its doors bedecked with diamonds. Gold pinnacles crowned its domes of sapphire.
Okay, sorry, can you read?
With the choicest rubies set in its diamond walls, it appeared as though possessed of eyes. It was furnished with wonderful canopies and greatly valuable gates of gold.
And text number 20 also, please, sorry.
Here and there in that palace were multitudes of live swans and pigeons, as well as artificial swans and pigeons, so lifelike that the real swans rose above them again and again, thinking them live birds like themselves. Thus the palace vibrated with the sounds of these birds.
Arif, can you read text number 21 for us? Okay, wait, you have to have the microphone.
The castle had pleasure grounds, resting chambers, bedrooms, and inner and outer yards, designed with an eye to comfort. All this caused astonishment to the sage himself.
Could you also read the next text, number 22, please, Aru?
When he saw Devahuti looking at the gigantic opulent palace with a displeased heart, Kardamamuni could understand her feelings because he could steady the heart of anyone. Thus, he personally addressed his wife as follows.
All right, thank you very much. That's one of our Gurukulis. Okay, so we're now on text number 23. Could you read, please, Pramod?
My dear Devahuti, you look very much afraid. First bathe in the lake Bindu Sardarova, created by Lord Vishnu himself, which can grant all desires of human being, and then mount this airplane.
Hang on to the mic. I want you to read the next one, but let's go back just for a moment and look at the text number 22. When he saw Devahuti looking at the gigantic opulent palace with a displeased heart. So immediately our question is, why displeased? But Kardama Muni has the ability to see within the heart of his wife, and he knows that something is wrong. And he says, you look very much afraid. And we wonder, what is there to be afraid of? Okay. Would you read the next text, please? 24.
The lotus-eyed Devahuti accepted the order of her husband. Because of her dirty dress and the locks of matted hair on her head, she did not look very attractive.
All right. So she had on a dirty dress. Now, this is the daughter of Manu. She is a princess. Why does she have a dirty dress on? And why is her hair matted on her head? And we'll also know that she's also got dirt caked on her body, as we're going to read later. Read the next text, please.
Her body was coated with a thick layer of dirt, and her breasts were discolored. She dove, however, into the lake, which contained the sacred waters of the Saraswati.
Okay, so that's the Bindu Sarovara. That's a lake that had the waters of the Saraswati River in it. Okay, Nanda Braj.
In the house inside the lake, she saw 1,000 girls, all in the prime of youth and fragrant like lotuses.
A house inside the lake. Now, this is not the first time that we've heard about a personality visiting a palace within the lake. Can anybody remember another occasion on which that occurred? Yes, please. Oh, you need the microphone. Nrsingarupa speaks.
I think there's a few, but one that comes to mind is when they poisoned Bhima.
Yes.
And he rolled into I don't remember which river it was, but then he went to like the land of the Nagas. He was brought down there, and that's one.
The Nagas, who were what? What kind of body were they?
Serpents.
Serpents. So when Bhimasen was poisoned by his inimical cousins, the Kauravas, they wrapped him in chains and threw him into the water, and the poison made him fall asleep. But when he sank down into the river, he came to the kingdom of the Nagas, and they were serpents, and they began biting him. He's an intruder. And their poison counteracted the poison that he had been given by Duryodhana and his brothers. And he came back to life, and he went into a palace of the king of the Nagas, and he also, they gave him several pots of nectar to drink, which would give him unlimited strength, I believe, and endurance. And so that was one example. There was another one in which someone else was dragged down under the water. What was that? Yes, please.
When Nanda Maharaj was dragged under the water and then Krishna Balaram went to save him.
When Oh, yes, that's a good example. And I'm thinking another one involving Arjuna. When Arjuna was he was bathing in a lake, he also was dragged down by some force into the water, and he met one of a princess down there who had taken him down under the water, and he was married to her apparently under the water in the kingdom with her father there, and that was it Ulupi? I can't remember the name. Right. Thank you very much, Ardav. You're going to school now, huh? Okay. Okay, guys. Have a good one at school. Our Guru coolies are leaving us now. Okay, Nandavraj, please.
Seeing her, the damsels suddenly rose and said with folded hands, we are your maidservants. Tell us what we can do for you."
So in this house under the river, under the lake, or inside the lake, 1,000 girls, all of prime youth and fragrant like lotuses. So how can they be fragrant in the lake? That's interesting, isn't it? Okay. All right, I'll go ahead. No, that's okay. Either way. All right.
The girls, being very respectful to Devahuti, brought her forth, and after bathing her with valuable oils and ointments, they gave her fine, new, spotless cloth to cover her body. They then decorated her with very excellent and valuable jewels, which shone brightly. Next, they offered her food containing all good qualities and a sweet, inebriating drink called ashavam.
I'm sorry. Which verse were you on at the last?
29.
Okay, so 30 now. All right, Ms. Rupa, would you read, please?
Then in a mirror she beheld her own reflection. Her body was completely freed from all dirt, and she was adorned with a garland, dressed in unsullied robes, and decorated with auspicious marks of tilaka. She was served very respectfully by the maids.
Okay, that word unsullied. What would by the context here? This is a word we don't hear mentioned so much in our English language. So by the context, what would you guess that it means, please, Ms. Rupa?
Very clean, new,
Unsullied means
unused.
not smeared with dirt or no discolorations in it or anything. Beautiful, beautiful robe. So all this happening in the house under the lake. Okay, this is very interesting. Read the next one, please, Ms. Rupa.
Her entire body, including her head, was completely bathed, and she was decorated all over with ornaments. She wore a special necklace with a locket. There were bangles on her wrists and tinkling anklets of gold about her ankles.
What is this about? Why is it mentioned that her entire body, including her head, was completely bathed? Why would they mention that? You know, when I think of taking a bath, especially in a body of water like that, I would expect that the entire body would be bathed, including the head. But what is happening here? We look at Prabhupada's reports on this one. He says in here, according to the Smriti Shastra's directions for daily duties, ladies are allowed to bathe daily up to the neck. The hair on the head does not necessarily have to be washed daily because the mass of wet hair may cause a cold. For ladies, therefore, taking a bath up to the neck is ordinarily prescribed, and they take a full bath only on certain occasions. So this is an occasion in which we could say she probably needs to have her hair washed. You know, it says it was matted on her head. So it was beautifully decorated. So text number 32. Who's prepared? Story, are you going to read? No, sorry.
About, about her hips, she wore a girdle of gold set with numerous jewels, and she was further adorned with a precious pearl necklace and auspicious substances.
And Story, what is a girdle of gold? What would you say that is? It's like what?
Sort of wraps around her
Okay.
trunk.
Something ornamental to go around her waist like a belt,
Yeah.
except probably very nicely decorated, and probably it probably has. I'm thinking it covers part of her upper part of her hips also. Very beautiful thing to wear with her clothing. And would you read the next one, please? 33.
Her countenance shone with beautiful teeth and charming eyebrows. Her eyes, distinguished by lovely, moist corners, defeated the beauty of lotus buds. Her face was surrounded by dark, curling tresses.
Okay, and and also please read the next one, 34.
When she thought of her great husband, the best of the sages, Kardama Muni, who was very dear to her, she, along with all the maidservants, at once appeared where he was.
And Rupa, would you kindly read our last text that we're going to be having today, number 35?
She was amazed to find herself surrounded by 1,000 maids in the presence of her husband and to witness his yogic power.
Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Marovishtam Stapitam Nena Bhutale Swayam Rupakata Maya Dadati Swavarantikam. Now, we're going to go back to text number 12, and we're going to read word for word the translations. We're going to speak we're going to do the translations. I think we'll do the translations first, and then we'll read the text as poetry. So I'll say the words, and if you will repeat after me, please. Maitreya, the great sage Maitreya, Udvacha said, Priyaya, of his beloved wife, Priyam, the pleasure, Anvichan, seeking, Kardama, the sage Kardama, Yogam, yogic power, Astita, exercised, Vina, Vimanam, an airplane. We might have heard this word Vima before, airplane. Kama Gam, moving at will. Chatta, Ovidura, Tarhi, instantly. Eva, quite. Avirachikarat, he produced. All right, so now let's read this responsively as poetry. Hey, we need a anyhow, we'll try. We'll work on that. That helps. Yeah, thank you very much. That's good. Maitreya Huvacha Priyaya Priyam Avichan Kardamo Yogam Astita Vimanam Kamagam Chatas Tarye Vavirachikarat That last word's pretty good. It's hard to pronounce for us English-speaking people. Let's do it once more. Maitreya Vacha Priyaya Priyamanicham. That's Anvichan Kardamo Yogamastita Vimanam Kamagam Chatas Taryeva Virachi Karat. Somebody want to give that a try? Priyaya Priyaman Vichan Karamo Yogamastita Vimanam Kamagam Chatas Taryeva Virachi Karat. Oh, wait a minute. Hang on just a minute. Where's the... Yeah, use the microphone. People want to hear you.
Priyaya Priyam Anvichan
Priyaya Priyaman Vichan
Kardamo Yogam Ashtitaha
Karamo Yogamastita
Vimanam Kamagam Shatas
Vimanam Kamagam Chatas
Tarhyeva Virachikarat.
Tarye Virachi Karat.
Priyaya Priyamanvichan
Priyaya Priyaman Vichan
Kardamo Yogamashtita
Karamo Yogamastita
Vimanam Kamagam Kshatas
Vimanam Kamagam Chatas
Charhyeva Virachikarat.
Taryeva Virachi Karat. Sorry? No. Anyone else want to give out a try? All right, wait a minute.
Maitreya Vacha
Maitreya Uvacha
Priyaya Priyam Anvichan
Priyaya Priyaman Vichan
Kardamo Yogamashtita
Kardamo Yogamastita
Vimanam Kamagam Shatas
Vimanam Kamagam Chatas
Taryeva Vira Kichara. Oh, Chikarat.
Taryeva Virachi Karat. Okay, thank you all very much for that. And once again, the translation I'll read. Maitreya continued, O Vidura, seeking to please his beloved wife. The sage Kardama exercised his yogi power and instantly produced an aerial mansion that could travel at his will. So it did not take a lot of time for him to think about this. There was another instance in which a couple of instances mentioned in the Bhagavatam of a fantastic city being built just by meditation. By I think there was who was the architect of the demons. I can't remember his name either. Do you recall? Anyhow, he was an architect, and he was employed by Krishna to build. Oh, he was. This was a demigod. Well, it depends. The city that I'm thinking about was the one that Krishna had built for the Pandavas when they were given that. That was, who was it? Vishwakarma. Okay, the architect of the demigods, not the demons. Okay, so that was one instance in which A city was built very quickly, it seems, according to the confirmed. That was it was according to the Mahabharata, I believe. Or was this also mentioned in the Bhagavatam, 10th canto of the Bhagavatam? Can't remember. Anyhow, this was a city that was built. Also, there was another city that was constructed and it was populated overnight. Does anybody know whose city that was? Not floating, but it was surrounded by water. All right. When Krishna built the city of Dwarka overnight, was said to be 90 square miles, but in that 90 square miles, there were 16,108 palaces, one for each one of Krishna's queens. And so where was Krishna at the time that was done? Where was he physically, we can say that. Where was he physically located? Fighting with Jarasandha, and where was that? Or to protect what city? Okay, it was not Dwarka at that time, as it was Mathura. Yeah, the Mathura. And he had fought with Jarasandha 18 times. And on the 18th time, Jarasandha thought he had defeated Krishna, because I think that was the time in which Krishna walked away from the battlefield, wasn't it? Or was that? Anyhow, each of those 18 times, he completely annihilated Jarasandha's army. And on the 18th, and he never killed Jarasandha. Why? All right, it was humiliation, but there was another reason that he let him go without killing him. What was it? He wanted, every time Jarasandha would gather together another army and bring them back, bring them to fight with Krishna. Krishna would annihilate them. Then he'd go back, raise another army, bring them back. Krishna was ridding the planet of those unnecessary, unwanted military phalanxes. And he said, why should I kill him? He's going to bring some more people in, and I'm going to get them off the planet, send them to their next destination. So actually, he was allowing Jarasandha then to, by the way, he's Jarasandha, not Jarasandha. I'm not sure how you learned how to pronounce it, but he was the son of a witch. Well, his body was born in two parts, and the king to whom that person came had him thrown out into the woods, those body parts. He said, what's the use of, a child that is born in two parts? And this witch came along, Jara is her name. And she came along and put those pieces together by her own mystic power. And this formed that very powerful foe of the Pandavas and the Kauravas, Jarasandha. And so Krishna allowed him to do the service of bringing all these phalanxes to him to annihilate, get them off the planet. And then Krishna eventually, after the Battle of Kurukshetra, had to arrange then for the Pandavas and the Kauravas, what was left of them, to be taken off the planet as well. So he inspired mass destruction. And it was, you remember that? About the reeds that were going along the river had turned to steel or had come up as iron when a certain block of metal was ground into powder and cast into the water, and then they came up as reeds, and they were steel. And so the Kauravas and the Yadavas, they drank some intoxicant, some wine that was made from rice, some rice wine. all of this was all by Krishna's arrangement because, you know, people who are the constant companions of the Supreme Lord do not fall under the auspices of the Mahamaya. So this was all Krishna's arrangement to get them off the planet. So we're talking about creating a palace. And we're going to read that in the purports that it is not that unusual that Kardama Muni could create a single floating palace, because it is said that Krishna creates unlimited numbers of planets, each of which has a large number of palaces on them, and he floats those planets in the sky. So this is all Krishna's doing. You know, he can cause things to happen that only seem imaginary to us. We can't think of how it is possible that he could do that. So now let's go back to the topic of the marriage between Kardama Muni and Devahuti. It would appear as though Kardama Muni initially, when he took his wife, actually his wife asked for him as her husband, did she not? Remember that? Devahuti. She heard about the qualities. Well, then there's another story in the Mahabharata about a person who hears about the quality of a man, and she sends him a message saying, please come and pluck me away from this Swayamvara, where I've got so many hundreds of kings and princes who want my hand in marriage. Please come and get me. I've heard about you, and you're the one. Who was that? Rukmini. Rukmini. And who was Rukmini in Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes? Rukmini, what I'm saying is that she was one of his queens, principal queen. She was the principal queen in the city of Dwarka. But she also had previously played a part in Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes. And who was she there? Chandravali, not Radharani. Radharani also appears in the pastimes in Dwarka. And what is her name there? Satyabhama, right? Satyabhama, is that correct? Yeah, so we got they're switching positions a little bit. Chandravali is the principal queen of Dwarka. Radharani is the principal queen of Vrindavan or Braj. So when they first married, Kardama was, you know, he was quite an ascetic, you know, and so his wife, this princess, the daughter of Manu, takes him as her husband, and she begins to perform very menial services for him. So to the point that her body, as we've heard recently, her body became emaciated. In other words, she was skin and bones. And she was covered with dirt, and her hair was matted. She just simply did not take the time to take care of her body. And you wonder why? Why? She's a princess. But she was married to an ascetic now. So that means that she had to take up the service of this great personality. And Krishna gives us an instruction like that, tadvidi pranipatina pariprashnena seva upadekshantite gyanam gyaninas tatvadarshina. He's telling Arjuna, just try to search out a bona fide spiritual master, render menial service to him, and the enlightened souls can give you knowledge because they are tattvadarshina. They have seen the truth. So so we think that maybe Devahuti has made a kind of a lousy decision with her choice of husband. But she understands the exalted position of her husband. And as we're going to read later on in the chapter, she gets benedicted with all of the accomplishments that her husband has garnered, that he's been able to perform. She gets all of those results, and she gets 11. I think it was 10 or 11 daughters that were born to her. Something I can't remember. And her husband divided himself into, I think, 9 different people, and he's the same person, of course, but he divides himself into 9 and impregnates her, and she has daughters. And then then she realizes that, well, I'm getting ahead of the story though. Anyhow, she realizes that her daughters are going to marry and move away and be with her in-laws, and this is going to leave Devahuti by herself. And she realizes, I haven't come to the same spiritual position that my husband has. So, my dear husband, do something. And so we're going to hear that she gave birth to a son. And that son then enlightened her with transcendental knowledge. All right, I'm going to quit and ask if anyone has any questions or comments you would like to offer. Oh, was I supposed to read the purport? You read the purport.
Here the words yogam, astititaha are significant. The sage Kardama was completely perfect in yoga. As a result of real yoga practice, there are 8 kinds of perfection. The yogi can become smaller than the smallest, greater than the greatest, or lighter than the lightest. He can achieve anything he likes. He can create even a planet. He can establish influence over anyone, etc. In this way, yogic perfection is achieved, and after this, one can achieve the perfection of spiritual life. This was not very wonderful, Kardama Muni, to create the mansion in the air according to his own desire, to fill the desire of his beloved wife. He at once created the palace, which is described in the following verses. So you were saying that it's not very great because Krishna is doing so many wonderful things.
There you go. So, if this was this mysticism, the idea of mysticism, the thought of something going on that I can't tap into, was one of the bits of knowledge that I pursued before I came into contact with the devotees, and I knew nothing about Krishna being the master of all mysticism. And so when I found that out, I thought, this is the person I want to hang with. And so Krishna then is so powerful and so wonderful, so creative, and he does things for his devotees to give them in wonderful pastimes, such as this, that Hare Krishna, such as Kardama and Devahuti, her giving up the position of princess in the palace of Manu and coming to live with this guy that's living like a hermit. And he's just satisfied by performing his austerities and performing all kinds of offerings to the Supreme Lord. Very, very, very advanced spiritualist. Sometimes we might think that they were, this is like, what do we call it? What's the term for yoga that is done for the purpose of material? Karma yoga, but there's another word. What is it? All right, so yeah, we might think that he's just performing all these austerities and having his wife get into it, and he's not taking proper care of her, and he's doing it for what? Well, we understand that, he was already a very advanced soul, so he's one who gets pleasure from kinds of spiritual realizations that he's having. And I think even Krishna comes and speaks to him directly, doesn't he? So very advanced. Anyhow, any other comments or questions that you all have?
I had one thought as we were reading through all the translations. there was one in text 21 at the end of the text, the translation to that verse. It says, "All this caused astonishment to the sage himself." And I just found that to be very interesting, that the sage instantly created this floating palace by his mystic potency, given to him by the Lord, of course, but that it astonished him, even though he was the one that created it. And it brought me to think about, serving here in the temple, trying to serve the deities and the devotees and all of us working together. And how sometimes it seems like there's so much to do, and how do we get everything done, and how do we accomplish everything? And it just kind of struck me that, Srila Prabhupada said so many times that Krishna is not a poor man. Like, that if somehow we can see that, okay, Krishna is in control, and if we can qualify ourselves in some ways, like Kardama Muni qualified himself to receive the mercy of the Lord, how anything is possible beyond our wildest imagination. Someone who was so advanced created this floating palace that astonished himself by the mercy of the Lord. So I just thank you.
That's a real good point. That I was thinking to mention that also, Nrsimha Rupa, when I was thinking about the subject matter for the class, is that if he was astonished, that means there's something there that he did not create himself. He just came up with the idea, oh, let me have a nice place. Let me devise a nice, comfortable place for my wife to be a mother and to take care of the household and that sort of thing. And so just by his desire, it seems, this palace comes to be. And we're going to read how they use this floating palace. And it's amazing they can go anywhere they want and enjoy whatever facilities are there for pleasure. And still, they're great devotees of the Lord. Both of them are. You might say, well, Devahuti was not so advanced as Kardama Muni, but look at the child she bore, Kapil. And so anyhow, it is, I've heard it said that we should never try to judge the actions of the demigods, because their rules of morality are completely different from our rules of morality here. Well, what to speak of the demigods, those persons who are highly advanced Vaishnavas, we can't put past too much judgment, because we know that Kardama and Devahuti had a lot of sensual pleasures after he completed all these austerities he was performing and created this floating palace. So we can't look at that and say, well, it seems that he was just doing all of these just so that he would have a beautiful wife and get to enjoy her for many, many years. I don't think that applies in this situation, because the exalted nature of the personality. Hare Krishna. Anything else? Anybody? Amazing stories in this Srimad Bhagavatam. One more from Nanda Braj.
Yeah, I was thinking about how exalted Kardama Muni is and Devahuti, and that before in Srimad Bhagavatam we hear that he could see within himself there was a little bit of lust there, which we probably can't even really understand because we're so, at least I am. But he knew to go to Krishna and say, hey, here's this situation, this is where I'm at. And so he worships Krishna for that, for that process of purifying himself. And this is where the story's going. He didn't just go and do it on his own whims. He went to Krishna and was asking him for help, too. And then it mentions also that Srila Prabhupada mentions that this is how we purify ourselves, by not going to some demigod or trying to create our own system of getting what we want. We go to Krishna and go through his process.
Can also be a reminder to us that we don't have to ask Krishna for anything. He knows exactly what we deserve, and he knows what we need, and he's going to provide it. But if we have some special thing that keeps bugging us, I've just got to have a nicer house or something. We can approach Krishna even with a mundane desire like that. Better to approach Krishna than it is to approach a demigod, because in some cases, like Lord Shiva, he'll grant it. You've approached Lord Shiva. It is said that the followers of Lord Shiva generally live in great opulence. But then look at Lord Shiva, who is his master, Krishna. And what does the Lord Shiva ask for accommodations for himself and his wife? A tree. Yeah, he just lives under a tree. So this is an exalted Vaishnava. He's Param Vaishnava, Lord Shiva is. And if he shows by his example that we can be satisfied with very meager arrangements, just like moving into East Dallas or in Mesquite or someplace close around, and accepting these kinds of houses that we had to accept back in 1979, 1980. It's a good practice for us to show Krishna that, yes, my Lord, wherever you want me to go, I'm going to go. I'm going to follow your representative. And we had a very good representative to follow here with Tamal Krishna Goswami. And it's the reason that so many of us came and we stayed. So Devahuti and Kardama, we can't really compare ourselves to them. We can't expect to live the kinds of lives that they live, but neither are we nearly as qualified spiritually as they were. So we will stop here. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Kalachandidam Ki Jai. And we offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who are just like desire trees, who fulfill the desires of everyone, and who are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha ananta koti vaishnavrinda ki jai. Everybody out there, have a good day. Don't be attached to the fruits of your labor. Chant the holy names whenever you get a chance. Hare Krishna. Kunkumangi. Jose, how did you didn't have that high large glove? So,
Go take prasadam, I put breakfast.